I'd like to say we just got back from Kansas, so you'll see some really recent photographs in here and slides. But we're going to be traveling from east to west and also back in time as we do this program.
So here's the major trail in 1849, as you can see on the right bottom. But by the way, my pointer batteries are dead, so I can't use it. Don't have a pointer, so I'll give you some little verbal description. On the right side said Fort Gibson, kind of smudged area. This is the trail goes out, and you see where Denver is or wasn't at that time, and then in Fort Bridger. And people ask, well, how do you know that's where it went? Well, because when we went out in 49 there, it says up there in the left kind corner, routed the Cherokee Nation to Salt Lake City. And you'll see that they put Salt Lake, the Mormons were out and everybody came in. They asked them to record which way did they come and how many people were in their party and so forth.
And where they're from.
Yeah, and where they're from. I think they were looking for the Missourians, but anyhow. And so when our guys arrived there, they asked him to asked him to write this trail. And it was a new trail, as Brigham Young said. But what we found here is this is the actual piece of paper found by Michael Landon in the church archives, and he sent us a copy of it here. And so this is the route. So from that, we could go and see roughly from Fort Gibson, and you can see kind of the way they went, the way they described it. The Walnut, that Turkey Creek and so forth, Santa Fe Trail, Fort Rains Fort, and up to Independence Road at Hams Fork. And you can see that distinctly there was a settler at Fort Gibson there. And so that was that was the first recorded trip of the Cherokee Trail that we know of. And of course, here's Fort Gibson. Fort Gibson, it was a very early trail, 1824. And you can see it was said to protect the civilized, quote, Indians from the savage Indians. So,
and from the immigrants.
And from there. And then how did it get its name? Well, Marcy mentioned it in his journals, but also when they did the sixth principal meridian, when they surveyed that, lo and behold, in that little corner there, it says Cherokee Trail. And of course, this was done in 1856, so we put 1856 there. So we had that and Marcy on the west side of the trail and this one on the east side of the trail. So that's how the name came about. And so we're going to start in Oklahoma because that was our best find and that was quite recent there. And you kind of see there, you see at the very bottom right, the Arkansas companies. And then you see north of that, the Missouri companies and the main trail is the Cherokee companies. And so you look at the very top left corner, that red star points to a little town called Wann, W-A-N-N, and above that is a prominent butte or bluff. And with that in mind, here's what we did. We went out and we went north of Wann, spent quite a long time there, Pat and I did. And finally, we came upon this, and here was that mound. And this is what Quisenberry, and he said, struck northwest for Evans's trail, came to it. Now, Evans was the 1849 trail. And Quisenberry's one of the 1850 people. We had 4 wagon trains in 1850. He was one of them. And he said, just opposite the long mound. And there's a long mound. And look at that swell. Isn't that fantastic? Goes clear across. And how we found this, Pat and I were stopped to have lunch. And a little farmer come riding down his ATV. And he said, can I help you? Having car trouble? And we said, no, we're eating our lunch. But so I said, are there any big dips here or anything? You know anything? And he said, well, I farm in a field where you park in front of. It has a little one, but he said, I have a place down that I rent so many miles down there and so many miles left and right. And he said, there's a big swell there that we have to go over. And so I went down here and here it was, and it's in the right place. And so we're tickled to death with our new find.
Okay. One of the things the Kansas friends were able to do is get the Cherokee Trail put on the state transportation map. And sometimes they need to write a little thing to show the rest of us how to do the other states because it's not so easy. We know that. So here you see this faded out yellow thing. Yellow markers never come through on these things. Anyway, progressing from the southeast through El Dorado, and to the northwest, you see McPherson, and you see a little town named Galva, and south of Galva is where the trail joins the Santa Fe Trail. So these are the people who have worked on this since about 2005. An accidental meeting between us and Linda Anderson, Bob too, I think he was there, at a Santa Fe Trail meeting in McPherson, Kansas, and we began to talk, and Linda got kind of interested, and then she went back and to Galva and got a whole lot of people interested. And when we had our first presentation there in Galva, there were 100 people. So I guess people were quite interested. Well, the difference in doing trail research on the public lands in the west and the private lands in the east, as misspelled, is that you have public lands versus private lands. So you can see that many of the people, several of the people who are on this initial original committee are owners of properties that are along the Cherokee Trail. So one of the first things you'll see in the succeeding maps is Little House on the Prairie. That's one of the places on the Cherokee Trail, or very close to it at any rate. And we stopped this part of the map at El Dorado, Kansas, east of Wichita. Here are a number of people who have been involved in ownership ways. And the reason we mention all these people is because there's where the signs have been set. There are 25 signs that these, I'm not sure that's a current one, there may be more now, but this is the number of signs that they've set on private property on that trail through Kansas. And here are some of the sites. This is from one of the signs, interpretive signs that's sitting now at Butler Community College. But you can see the map on the right denotes some of the places along the way, and the things on the bottom are some of those sites along the Cherokee Trail in Kansas. The very last one on the right is where the junction with the Santa Fe Trail is.
Right top, right left.
Right.
Top. Yeah. Oh, I see.
Yeah. Right. This is the other trail sign that is now at Butler Community College, and you can see on the right the crossing of the Walnut River, a cabin nearby. That I believe is I don't want to say it's 1858, but it's in the late 1850s, early 60s. One of the first people on that list, it is the first person on that list, is Jim and Diana's farm at Hale, near Hale, Kansas. Jim contacted us in about 2011, I think, and said they had done a pasture burn, and it was the first time the pasture had been burned in a long time, and when they burned it, these ruts came up. Ruts and swales, and he said they didn't know what they were, so he got real curious and got a hold of us. He actually got an award from OCTA in 2012 for having discovered these, and he's very covetous of them, as are most of the people that are owners. They are so proud to have, here's Jim and his wife and his brother, so proud to have these signs on their property and adjacent to their properties. Another thing the Kansas group has done is develop a pamphlet, Cherokee Trail in Kansas, and with some places you can go to get more information with all kinds of things, including upper left, the artifacts that have been turned up. Now, in the West, we do archaeology digs for the artifacts, but this guy was just plowing his land, and that's how the things came up out of the ground. This is a part of the McPherson newspaper explaining a little article about those were found in the Gossel area on the Cherokee Trail. Also, there's a GLO map. This is all in one township where there is the 1849 Old California Road from Fort Smith in Center Bottom. Mid 1850s road to California from Fort Smith runs north to south, and then east to west, 1859, the road to Pikes Peak from the Valley of the Cottonwood.
Okay,
And
and here's the old Cherokee Trail. You see it there. You can see the different sub trails coming in there, but you see old El Dorado right in the middle there, and this is shows us this Cherokee Trail hitting the Santa Fe Trail right there.
all right, our recent visit, I told you some of these were very recent, was to Butler Community College. When we arrived there on a Friday afternoon to deliver our material, we met with the archivist and we met with the librarian, and they were all excited to unload the truck. I was sure glad they were there to unload it because it was chock full. And we met on Sunday then at the Butler College Administration Building, and in order to see the site where these new signs had been set. Now, these are some of the members of the Cherokee Trail group in Kansas. Jack on the left. The next man is the guy who does all the graphic work, graphic arts work for the maps and for the brochures. Then Dr. Kim Krull, K-R-U-L-L. She's the president of the college. She was there on Sunday, can you imagine? And was so excited about what we were doing and what we were going to do. On the other side then is Brian Stuckey, former president of the group. And in front of him, Joyce, and she's the new president. No,
Cynthia.
Joyce.
Okay.
Oh, Cynthia. I'm sorry. Cynthia. And then Bob and Linda Anderson on the right. So this is the group that met most recently at Butler Community College in order for us to get along with it.
Okay, what we came down with was a pickup truck. We recently bought a pickup truck, and we had that packed so tight. It was unbelievable. Here, I'm kind of a new truck, and we gave it a hernia on his first trip because it was loaded clear down to the overloads and down. And I kept calling the archivist to say, make sure you have 2 or 3 young guys there because we got a big load, and we had it loaded by somebody else because we couldn't do it. And so here's what we had. We had 5 of those big, large plastic tubs that you buy from Walmart. We had 7 large boxes, 1 5-drawer file cabinet, and 1 4-drawer map cabinet. It was a load. I couldn't believe it. I called the guy 3 times. And he finally said, "God's sakes, I'll have somebody here," because I was afraid we'd show up. And we did. We said we'd try to make it by Friday afternoon, and we did. And we finally got the truck unloaded. And this is our Sunday picture. So they ended up with quite a lot of material. I don't know how many years it's going to take to go through it. Go ahead.
All right, there we are again on the route from Kansas to El Dorado. And the other important person in El Dorado is Augusta Stewart. She came to Kansas in 1854 with abolitionists sent out by the New England Immigrating Society. You know, they were having, bloody Kansas in those days, and she and her father and sister, her mother had died back east. So the 3 of them traveled to the northeastern corner of Kansas and were there for a while. Her father served in militias and all that. Then finally he said, I think I'm finished with my work with the military. And they went down the trail southwest and founded El Dorado. And she writes almost daily of the things that happened in their travels and in the family and in El Dorado. And by 1859, let me see, is that what we're saying? Yes. She had written about the amount of traffic that was coming through there. Man said the road was covered with wagons from here to Fort Gibson on the way to Pikes Peak. And she documented over 100 wagons daily going past this, crossing the Walnut River, and they were actually growing produce to sell to the immigrants that were going by. Augusta was really quite young, and you have to, I think about diary keepers were not all old ladies and men. A lot of them were young people in their teens, in their early 20s. This is said to be her wedding picture. And I want you to note that her Marjorie's daughter, Marjorie's the descendant, and Marjorie's daughter, Connie, well, is or was a member of the Colorado chapter of OCTA. So this is their editing of Augusta's journals, and they still have the original.
And by the way, we asked for the original diary. They sent portions of it that pertain to our Cherokee Trail, so that was nice.
That was the way we got permission. Yeah. Okay, we're north of El Dorado, a little ways at Potwin. Here's another swale, a noticeable one, and there's Emerson from South Carolina pointing to that same swale. And you see by that time there's a sign there, Cherokee Trail, crossed here.
Okay, now we're going down to the crossing itself, owned by Monica and Mike Thompson. And here he is. You can see on that plaque right there, Walnut River Crossing, National Historic Place. Mike actually first got it on the Historic Places of Kansas, I believe, and then he finally worked on it and got to be on the national places of there. And so there's Mike and Monica. And then here's Mike receiving his award about 2 weeks ago from OCTA there, Friends of the Trail.
Yeah, we were a little late, Roger.
And here he is.
This is actually the trail looking from the west side down to the river. The crossing is so prominent because it's a rock crossing. You know, that the mud is 10 feet deep in this area. So that it has to be rock in order for wagons and large numbers of wagons to cross. Mike here is being interviewed by a Wichita PBS station, I believe. And there is Brian helping him out on that interview. Since that time, as you all well know, we have had filming by Richard Hunt this past spring and summer. And okay. And also, go ahead, Jack.
Here's a beautiful view from satellite sent to us from by the Kansas group. It's a good question. Is trail visible here? Yes, look at it. Can you see it? It goes clear across that field, much like we saw in Oregon where they had the round circles. You can still see it, see the trail through that. But that was a pretty neat slide there. Thank you guys for that.
And here is the meeting at the Santa Fe Trail and Cherokee Trail. So here's a sign from National Park. There's one from our Kansas group. And there's one that was set for Fuller's Ranch, which was nearby in the late 1850s.
And talking about the Santa Fe Trail, you can see where it says Evans Stone Marker there. And there's a story in itself, but you find that another time on there. And follow it down and it goes to a Black Pool. Now that's just east of Dodge City there. And that Black Pool is kind of interesting because we've heard about it and talked to some people in Santa Fe Trail Association. They took us out and took us. They own that property there, and so they took us to the Black Hole, and it is a black pool, and there's writing all along the sides. It's a sandstone and all kinds of writings. And here's what we came up with right there. This is one of the first writings, Black Pool, discovered by Post. I think he Post 1843 there. And here's what Cush said when he got there. That's a large spring some 40 yards to the left of the road. This is kind of interesting. You think it'd be in a lot of diaries, just left of the road some 40 yards. But when we talked to Francois, remember Francois was the one who was writing on on the Santa Fe Trail, he had never heard of it. It became prominent during the 1859 rush, but the early times, we were one of the very few that ever recorded it. He said,
what he said.
A great many names carved here on the rocks around. We learned from the inscription the Ox Team Company left and that they passed here on the 17th. And so we tried to find that etching, but we couldn't. But anyway, it's there, and there are thousands of names on there. Okay, now we're going to go to Wyoming there, and this is some GLO maps there. And if you look on the right side, all these, remember, this is an east to west map. And so here, past there, you see Cherokee Trail, Cherokee Trail, Cherokee Trail, Cherokee Road, so forth. All of them are there. And then if you get to in Wyoming, there's Cherokee Ridge, there's Cherokee Creek, there's Cherokee Mountain, there's Cherokee. It's all kinds of Cherokee. People always wonder how come they have so many Cherokee names out there. Well, because they were all over that place there. Remember, by 51, they were driving cattle through that area there. So this is some of the GLO maps that Lee Whiteley. By the way, we got a GLOMS from the Park Service and passed on Lee, and he worked with them. Okay, here's Pat now.
Oh, yeah, well, when I told you we were going back in time, well, this is really a passport in time. This work was done some time ago. Huh, time. That is a program of the National Forest Service and BLM, and this was along the up from the Laramie River, no,
Yep.
west. And there's a guy in the audience here with us today who might recognize his own face under that orange cap. This was a part year or even a year and a half project, because in the summer we went out and did the dig, or did the locations. We're using metal detectors and with the Forest Service. And you can see the white pieces of paper are where hits were found. And so the trail in this area is right straight from us toward that man in the orange hat, who happens to be,
Who is he?
yeah, who is he, Mr. Mystery Man there. And then in the next winter, a team went back, two couples went back to Laramie and worked on identification and doing all the work they had to do in order to get the pieces that were kept into Forest Service or the University of Wyoming archives.
We've had over 300 hits in around 2 miles, and 150 of them were period hits. And that meant they were something related to 1849 or earlier. And so we saved fuel. Most of the stuff we reburied, so we do not disclose the area. But here's some of the stuff we found. On the left side, you can see a 54 caliber bullet, quite a few bullets, most of them iron pot. The Forest Service probably took 15 articles, one of them being a breach of a trade gun. And so this is but this is a few of the examples that Muriel and her husband worked on, and then of course, yes, and hornbuckles. Okay.
And now, speaking of, go ahead.
Yeah, speaking of, here's some markers.
Different kind of markers.
Cement markers are about 5 feet, maybe, or 5.5 feet. They're cement. They're embedded. It says Cherokee Trail on them. You got a 5 rebar on them, and this became part of a mitigation project Pat will tell you about.
Yes, one of the cable companies got too close. They assumed a 10-mile corridor, or is that right?
Yeah.
Anyway, on a major highway on the interstate, and they encroached on public lands, and so BLM said,
"They encroached on our trail."
Well, I know.
Yeah.
But so BLM took them to task, and then mitigation got part of what they got were these markers, these Cherokee Trail markers.
Here was a month that we spent with Chuck and Susan on the trail, marking the trail. And you see Susan there recording. At each place, we took a GPS reading, a photo down the trail, and a photo looking up the trail there, and a map on it. And Chuck did all this work there. And you notice on the left side where Suzanne is, it says CT009 looking west. And you look just above that pole, that's the Green River right there. And CT means Cherokee Trail. And so if we go there, here it is. There's the Flaming Gorge Reservoir, Green River. Right at the very tip, there's a little star that says CT001. That's our first post. And then the other ones are sightings and so forth that were recorded. And then you right above the T in Current Creek, it says 003. That was the third marker. Then 4th and 5th and 6th and 7th and 8th. And up, not quite the 9th. We didn't get that one in there. So anyway, each of these places were recorded. And so this is what we gave to, I should say we, but Chuck gave to the Park Service. And if you keep on that and you keep on going and you finally get far enough there into another ranger district, this is actually Gremley, I mean the Rollins district there. And you look there, kind of that little square area, it says Powder River.
No, Powder Mountain.
Powder Mountain there. And this is Powder Rim. And you see up there in the top, it says Powder Rim. And if you go down to the red arrow on the left bottom there, it says Lower Powder Springs. And if we go there, you'll see this. And here it is. Beautiful springs. is low here by now, but you can see it here. And it said the Utes, and we don't know how many years or centuries the Utes had been in there. And then the mountain men in the 20s and 30s, you can read that, Fremont, or Cherokee Packers in 49. 50 was a wagon train. Those 4 wagon trains we talked about earlier came through here and so forth on this. So it has a lot of history right there. And by the way, it's owned by a rancher who lives down close by there. And he had a son-in-law, and the son-in-law wanted that marked so badly there, but we're not a national trail, so we couldn't get the Park Service. And I was on part of the board then, and we couldn't get that. Couldn't get Ogden to do it either. So it sits there, and he wanted it the worst way. But anyhow, what happened was the Archaeology Society came out there, Oregon Archaeology Society, and this is their publication, and they joined the Wyoming Archaeology Society, and they came up here, and you see the title of this book is called Ute Horse Raiders on the Powder Rim and Rock Art at Powder Wash, Wyoming there. And on the back side, that's the front side, and there's some horses and a horseback rider, you know, at the cover. But on the back side, the first one, there's a medicine bag and so forth. And then on the bottom left is a horse, and his red ochre is one of the few red pretty. And then on the right side is a kind of a quickie up. Now, quickie up's kind of like a teepee. They put the poles up there. Remember, this is all cedar there. And what happens is they're quite large, or large enough for a man to get in here. But through the years, the bottom rots out. So now if you go there and you see them, they're only about 2 or 3 feet tall. But at one time, they may have been 3 or 4 feet or 5 feet tall. So we'll take a look at that. And there's a little bit different, closer view. But they also had a brush corral. And this is quite interesting. You can see it there's kind of decayed now, but it wasn't at that time. And they predicted maybe it was an antelope jump or something, or antelope pin, but not a jump, but a pin. And so they measured this, and it goes around there. You see it right there on both sides, and around over here.
By the way, Butch Cassidy and his gang used those corrals when they were running around in that part of Wyoming much later.
And so it goes around, and then here are some of the Willow Wiki up. You can see what's left there, like I told you before. And you come on, and then here's Upper Powder Springs, and you can see all the stuff around Upper Powder Springs. It was at the lower before there. You can see the rock art sites there, and sheltered with walls. The sheltered with wall is kind of a little cave or something in which they put a wall in front, and maybe it was a place to hide or to be a protective area during warfare. And then the circular blinds, wiki up sites, and so forth. And if we go one more here, here's some of the rock art they found, mostly charcoal, except in the M, and that's actually carved in the rocks there. So, and this is just a very few of them they found, because this is by the way, this is a south-facing slope. Very few in Wyoming are south-facing like that, and it was in Ute territory. And well, let me go back up again. And so the size of that Ute territory, they measured the fence, and it was 4.5 kilometers, or about 2.8 miles, almost 3 miles long, that brush. They figured it was enough for 500 horses. And what happened was, that they believe, is that the youth would go up and steal horses from the northern, like the Sioux and so forth, and bring them down there. And that was their gathering area before they went further south into the Ute territory. That was kind of the history of that area. And so with that, that's pretty well tells it. And if you're interested more about the trail and you don't have the books, these are 2 books, and they're sold by Friends of the Cherokee Trail, Kansas, and you can contact them if you're interested in a purchase. And it's kind of interesting because some of those signs you notice there, it said partial support came by the National Society Daughters of the American Colonists. Well, they're the ones that helped us in 2000 and 2002 put up this sign in Pueblo, Colorado, in the park. And we have another one over in Grantsville, Utah, but it mentions about the Cherokee Trail, and we thank them for them.